I'm posting this here because I can't talk about it anywhere that's indexed. If this gets scraped and shows up on some normie forum, fine. But I'm aiming it at the people who know how the deep net works. The ones who'll understand when I say, I didn't download a map app. I downloaded a predator. I'm a long-distance hiker. That's the non-clickbait way to put it. The more dramatic way is that I've been slowly trying to erase myself from the grid for years. I quit my job in Manhattan, sold most of my stuff, and started living out of a backpack and storage unit. My parents think I'm going through a phase. My friends call me when they're drunk and say things like, "You're so brave," and "I wish I could just disappear for a while." They don't get it. I'm not trying to disappear. I'm trying to feel something that isn't curated by an algorithm. Which is why it's kind of funny that an algorithm is what almost got me killed. It started because I wanted to hike a section of trail that doesn't officially exist. There's a mountain range a few hours from where I grew up. I won't name it. If you recognize it, keep it to yourself. Officially, there are 3 main routes up to the ridgeline. They're well-maintained, clearly marked, and overcrowded with influencers in neon jackets taking panoramic photos for people who never leave their couches. But if you hang out on niche forums long enough, you start seeing references to a 4th path: old logging roads, abandoned fire breaks, game trails, a messy patchwork of traces that, if you string them together correctly, create a hidden route that cuts under the official ones. No markers, no rangers, no families with selfie sticks, a ghost trail. I'd been trying to piece it together for months. Every time someone dropped a hint in a thread, there's an old cairn at the second switchback if you leave the main trail. Or follow the dry creek for about a quarter mile until you see the boulder with a crack through it. I saved it. Screenshots, GPS waypoints, scribbles in a notebook. At some point, I realized I'd basically built myself an obsession for free. That's where the app came in. It was 3 in the morning, and I'd fallen down a rabbit hole in one of those deep net indexes that's just endless text links in a black-on-gray interface. If you know, you know. One link caught my eye. Trace cartography for the lost. The description underneath was minimal, bespoke route mapping for paths that don't exist. No screenshots, no install count, no comments. I should have closed the tab. Instead, I clicked. There was a simple page, a logo that looked like a compass needle without letters, a single paragraph of text. Some trails are buried in memory. Some are erased from maps. Trace reconstructs them from residual data fragments. If you know it should exist but can't find it, let us build it for you. Under that, a download button and a text box. Describe the path. Be specific. I remember my stomach tightening. It felt like someone had been reading my tabs for months and built an app just for me. I typed in everything I knew about the ghost trail. Distance estimates, unofficial names, rumors from old posts. There used to be a logging road before the landslide in '93. Rangers said they tore down the fire tower in '84, but you can still see the concrete foundation if you bushwhack. I poured every breadcrumb into that box. When I hit enter, the cursor spun for maybe 10 seconds. Then, route viable, downloading profile. A file popped up, Android install package. Again, red flag. Again, ignored. I loaded it onto my phone. Trace looked like any other mapping app. Clean, minimalist, green and white. When I opened it, it asked for permissions. Storage, GPS, camera, local mesh connectivity, whatever that meant. I accepted them all. The main screen was a bare map. At the top, no base layer. Under that, custom profile. Ghost trail, 13.4 miles. Status, experimental. There was a big button, begin trace. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. 2 days later, I was at the mountain. It was early, sky washed out gray. The parking lot was half full of SUVs and crossover hybrids. Families were spilling out, shouldering day packs and coolers. A group of college kids in matching flannels argued over which trail to take. I pulled my cap down low, shouldered my pack, and walked toward the official trailhead. At the signboard, with its big printed map and avalanche warnings and sun-faded missing persons flyers, I veered left. There was a faint footpath in the grass where rangers and maintenance crews probably walked. Trace vibrated in my pocket as soon as my boots left the gravel. I pulled it out. The screen showed a thin red line overlaid onto a blank, gray, nothing. No contour lines, no labels, just that single red thread. At the bottom, a message. Signal acquired. You are now on the trace. This is so stupid. My little blue dot sat right on top of the red line. At first, it was perfect. Trace guided me along the maintenance path, then cut off into the trees. There were no markers, but here and there, I saw evidence of old use. Rotting stumps cut flat, half-buried rusted metal, a cracked glass insulator from a long-gone power line. The app didn't talk. It didn't chirp or ding or glitch. The red line simply flowed ahead of my blue dot, like a vein under skin. When I drifted left or right, the dot nudged back toward it with the smallest haptic buzz. Every now and then, a tiny label would appear along the line, old roadbed erosion gully, avoid unstable. It felt less like software and more like someone walking just ahead of me, calling back advice. For the first few hours, I was high on it. There was no one else around. The air had that green, mossy chill. Sunlight came down in broken beams through the canopy. High above, visible between the branches, I saw the ridgeline where the official trails marched like ants, even heard distant voices sometimes. But down here, it was just me and the trees and the soft crunch of my boots. At noon, I stopped near a dry creek bed to eat. I checked the app. The red line continued ahead, curving gently, climbing. But something else was on the screen now. Below my blue dot, maybe a quarter mile back along the route, a second dot glowed faintly. It was red. I frowned, tapped it. Nothing popped up. Probably a waypoint marker, I thought. Or maybe it was caching where I'd started. Some UX thing. I shrugged, ate the rest of my granola bar, and moved on. The first wrongness was stupid small. I passed a big, dead tree with a lightning scar down its trunk. The bark was peeled away in a long, pale ribbon. It was the kind of landmark your eyes remember without trying. 20 minutes later, I saw it again. Same trunk. Same crooked T-shaped branch above the scar. Same scrape of fungus at the base. I stopped, looked around. Forest has repetition. Trees can look similar. I know that. But I am not a tourist. I've been hiking since I was 12. You learn to spot the difference between déjà vu and actual repetition. I pulled out my phone. Trace said I was exactly where I should be. The red line marched on ahead. My blue dot sat right on it. I zoomed out. The route I'd followed curved through the terrain in a lazy uphill climb. No loops, no tight switchbacks. But there, behind me, I saw the red dot again. Closer now. I swallowed. Okay, I told myself. Glitchy map. Offline mode acting up. Chill. I kept walking. It took another hour for my brain to admit what was happening. I'd started checking the app every 5 minutes. Zoom out. Check the red line. Check my dot. Check the phantom dot tailing me. The phantom dot was no longer faint. It glowed the same red as the line, maybe a half mile back, then a third of a mile, then a quarter. I stopped dead in the middle of the trail, the real one, the faint imprint of old earth underfoot, and listened. Wind hissed through leaves. A bird called once. No branches snapped. No leaves rustled in that deliberate way that says something with weight is moving out there. You can tell when people are nearby on a trail. The rhythm is wrong. Even the quiet ones make patterns. The crunch of gravel, the exhale of breath, the clink of trekking poles. There was none of that. But the dot kept moving. I tried to laugh. It came out tight. "Fine," I muttered. "You want to be creepy software? Be creepy." I took a photo of the screen. Red line, blue dot, red dot following. The moment the shutter sound chirped, the app flashed white and then came back. The screenshot wasn't in my gallery. Instead, there was a new label hovering above the red dot: Drift. By 3 in the afternoon, the sky had hazed over completely. Clouds hung low, pressing the light flat. Trace guided me up a long, sloping incline covered in ferns. The red line was sharper now, almost luminous. Every time I glanced back at the phantom dot, it was closer, though never quite catching up. Half a mile, a third, a quarter. My chest felt tight all the time. I kept pulling one earbud out to listen, then jamming it back in because the silence was worse. Finally, I snapped. I stopped, turned around and shouted, "Hello?" My voice came out weird, too loud, crushed by the trees. It bounced back at me in dull fragments. "Hello? Hello? Oh?" No answer. No movement. I pulled out my phone. Trace updated. The phantom dot had stopped too, same distance behind. For a second, I had the wild thought, it's mirroring me, like some screwed-up GPS-based shadow. My battery was at 73%. Signal icon showed no bars, but Trace insisted local mesh, stable. "What is that even supposed to mean?" I hissed. Underneath in tiny gray letters, a new status line was blinking. Drift. I decided to test it. I left the Trace path. Not far, just enough to make a point. When the red line veered right along a ridge, I kept walking straight, pushing through low branches, letting ferns slap against my shins. The app buzzed frantically. "Route deviation, 30 feet. Please return to Trace." More buzzing. The haptic feedback came in sharp, insistent bursts, like a phone call you're refusing. I kept going. Route deviation, 60 feet. Route deviation, 95 feet. The red line stretched away to my right. My blue dot floated in gray space now, off the road. I zoomed out. The phantom dot did not leave the line. It stayed glued to that red path like a bead on a wire. "Got you," I muttered. "You're not real. Just some freaky UX wizardry to keep idiots like me engaged." Smugness cut through the fear for all of 10 seconds. Then Trace's screen flickered. The interface glitched, turning into a mess of lines and blocks before it resettled. The red line moved. It slid across the blank map, bending, reorienting, until it lined up perfectly under my blue dot again. The phantom dot followed. I stared, feeling a cold, electric numbness wash up my arms. Drift, 94%. The message blinked at the bottom of the screen, then disappeared. "Okay," I whispered, "that's not funny." I turned data off. Forced stopped the app, cleared its cache, held the power button down until the screen went black and the phone shut off completely. I counted to 30. My heart was hammering. When I turned it back on, I didn't open Trace. I opened my regular Maps app. No offline layers, no custom profiles. Just the usual satellite imagery and contour lines. It showed my location blinking in the middle of a green expanse. No trails nearby except the official ones, way to the east. That should have comforted me. It didn't. The trees suddenly felt closer, the air heavier. I put the phone away and kept walking, trying to navigate by actual terrain for a while. Uphill meant ridge. The sound of water meant creeks. I'd learned this long before smartphones were anything but dumb lumps in businessmen's pockets. After 20 minutes, curiosity pinned me like a needle. I pulled out my phone, just to check the time, I told myself. Trace was open. I hadn't touched it. The red line was back, perfect and smooth. My blue dot sat in the middle, and behind it, the phantom dot, closer than ever. Drift, 97%. The percent counter pulsed, then dimmed. The app did something new. The map rotated 180 degrees on its own. The arrow indicating forward spun until it pointed back the way I'd come. A label faded in above the phantom dot. Correction suggested. My stomach lurched. It wants me to go back, I realized. Or maybe said out loud. It wants me to walk toward it. The forest around me waited, silent. Rational brain, it's code. Code can be weird, but it can't want things. Animal brain, turn around and see who wrote it. I stood there breathing hard, looking at that red dot. I'm not an idiot. I know all the ways a story like this can go. You turn around, you see a figure down the trail, etc. You walk toward it, and for a while you think it's just a glitch where your GPS position is duplicated. Then the distance doesn't close the way you think it should. Then the trees look wrong. Then you realize I didn't want to realize anything. So I did the thing almost everyone does in modern horror. I tried to outsource my fear to someone else. I hit share. I selected the only contact I ever text with about my hiking trips, my younger brother, Nate. A link appeared in the compose box. It wasn't a typical app deep link. It was a long, ugly string of characters with Trace at the start. At the top of the message, Trace had auto-filled some text. Come find me. I swore and deleted it. Typed my own. Hey, this app is being weird. If you get this, ping me back so I know it's sending anything at all. Screenshot attached. I took another screenshot, which the app let me do this time, and sent the message. Okay, I said. Okay. He's probably in class. He'll text back eventually and call me a drama queen. My hand was shaking. I forced myself to breathe slow. I put the phone away. And for the first time since I got there, I seriously considered turning back the old-fashioned way. No maps, no apps, just retracing my steps to the parking lot. Then something else happened. On the horizon, between the trees, far ahead in the direction I'd been walking, I saw movement. Not the flicker of leaves or the swoop of a bird. A vertical, steady movement, like a figure crossing an opening in the foliage. I froze, eyes locked on that spot. There it was again. A dark shape passing between trunks, maybe 200 yards away, just at the edge of where the forest opened onto a slope. Hey, I called out before my brain could veto it. Hey, man. The shape didn't respond. It moved out of sight. My thoughts kept looping. It's someone else with the app. Someone else using Trace, crossing your path. The app is showing another user's location. That's all. That's it. That's all this is. It was a comforting lie because it put this in the category of creepy but explainable tech company bullshit. You know, like when you talk about a product in your living room and an ad for it appears on your phone an hour later. Then the forest went quiet. I've spent a lot of time in woods. There are different kinds of quiet. There's the early morning hush before birds really wake up. There's the damp, muffled quiet after rain. And then there's this, the predator quiet. The one where the air pulls tight and everything with a pulse goes still. That quiet rolled over the trees in one long suffocating wave. The hair on my arms rose. I slowly turned in a circle. No wind, no insect buzz, no birds, nothing. I looked at the screen. My blue dot and the red dot, the drift, were now pointed at each other, maybe 50 yards apart on the line. The line between them pulsed, brighter than the rest. Approach. That word appeared in the middle of the map, hovering over the space between the dots. Like a command, I wanted to throw the phone into the ferns. I also wanted to never let it leave my hand again. I compromised. I stuffed it into my pocket hard and started walking forward. What else was I supposed to do? Stay put until dark, with my imagination eating me alive? Bushwhack blindly toward the official trails, hoping I didn't twist an ankle or walk into a ravine? At least if I walked toward the drift, I'd get an answer. An answer was better than the open mouth of unknowing, waiting forever. That's what I told myself anyway. The terrain sloped up. The ground was soft with years of fallen needles. Branches snagged my sleeves. I kept my eyes on the dim shape I'd seen ahead, trying to line up my path with where it had crossed. As I climbed, the air grew colder. Not just higher altitude, colder. A thick, breath-sapping chill that settled into my lungs. My pocket buzzed twice. I ignored it for about 10 seconds. Then I yanked the phone out. 2 notifications. Nate, received something from you? File won't open WTF. You okay? Nate, hello? Relief hit me so hard, it made my knees weak. I thumbed a reply. Yeah, I'm fine, just freaked myself out with a trail app. I'll explain later. Before I could hit send, Trace overlaid the text box with a translucent banner, no network. Local, mesh only. The send icon grayed out. The message sat there, unsent. My relief curdled. Local mesh, I whispered. Local to what? Trace flickered and took over the full screen again. The 2 dots were closer. 20 yards. I was almost there. I crested the slope and came out into a small clearing. It was oval-shaped, ringed with trees. The ground was strangely bare. No underbrush, just a carpet of old needles and a few rocks poking through. The center of the clearing was wrong, not in a dramatic Hollywood way. No blood, no bones, no glowing pentagrams. Just subtle wrongness, the kind that makes your eyes skitter away. The earth had a shallow depression, like something heavy had once rested there for a long time and then been removed. The color of the dirt was different, darker, almost greasy looking. I stepped closer. My phone buzzed madly, vibrating in my hand like it wanted out. The 2 dots on the screen were now touching, overlapping perfectly at the center of the clearing. For a second, my blue dot and the red drift dot merged. The map zoomed in so tightly that the world became just that single pinprick of light. Then everything went black. The app, the screen, the world. No, my eyes were still open. I could see the trees, the clearing, my boots, but the phone went dead in my hand. The battery was at 62% a minute ago. Now the screen was just a mirror, reflecting my own pale, tight face. For the first time since I started the hike, real fear clawed up my spine. Not unease, not creepiness. Fear. I tapped the power button. Nothing. I held it down for 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. Somewhere deep in my brain, an old primitive voice said, "You brought something here that wanted you to reach this spot. Congratulations. You delivered yourself." I looked up. At the far edge of the clearing, opposite where I'd entered, something moved. It took my brain a second to parse it because it wasn't moving like a person. It wasn't moving like an animal either. It was adjusting. The trees there were packed close, their trunks a mess of vertical lines. Between two of those lines, a slightly darker shape hung. Clearing. It was about my height, built like a person in the most generic sense. But where a human body has curves and muscles and joints, this thing had subtler shifts of texture, like layers of bark and lichen arranged in the rough pattern of a torso and limbs. A mimic. That word came out of nowhere. It mimics whatever environment it hunts in. Its head, or the part that should have been a head, tilted slowly, as if examining me. I realized I was clutching my dead phone like a crucifix. The absurdity almost made me laugh. The thing took another step. I stumbled backward. "Hey," I croaked. "Hey, stop. Don't." Great. I'd told the nightmare what to do. That always works out well. It stopped. That was somehow worse. The silence stretched. Then, from somewhere beneath my thumb, I felt a faint insect-like vibration. I looked down. The phone screen was still black. But under the glass, at the very center, a single point of red light glowed, like a pupil. It pulsed in time with the faint buzzing. The thing at the edge of the clearing tilted its head the other way, syncing with the pulses. My airway constricted. The light sharpened. Lines grew from it, spidering outward in thin red veins beneath the glass. They formed a shape not unlike the trail line in Trace, a path, threading across an invisible map. I didn't know what else to do, so I watched. The vein line shifted. It stopped pointing back the way I'd come. It stopped aligning with the ghost trail. Instead, it swung around and pointed past the creature, deeper into the mountain, higher up. My phone buzzed once, weak but clear. A word flickered onto the dark screen in dim red letters, as if burned in from an overused display. "Continue." The figure took one step sideways, away from the line the vein suggested. It wasn't blocking my way. It was letting me pass. The realization landed with the weight of a boulder. This thing hadn't lured me here to kill me. It had lured me here to redirect me. I thought about the phrase on the Trace site. Some trails are buried in memory. Some are erased from maps. Erased. On purpose. "What's further up?" I whispered. The figure didn't answer, obviously. It simply melted backward a few inches, blending more with the shadow of the trees. It made room for me. My legs felt like rubber. My lungs hurt. I stepped forward anyway. I walked past it. It was like walking past a cliff edge you can't see in the dark. Every instinct screamed that one wrong move would send you plummeting. I kept my eyes on the dirt 2 feet in front of my boots, because I knew if I looked at the thing as I drew level with it, I'd lose control and either bolt or freeze. As I passed, the temperature dropped. I could see my breath fogging in front of my face, even though it had been a mild day. There was a faint sound like bark cracking in frost, or maybe something else. A chuckle, stretched and inverted. Then I was through, on the other side, entering the opposite tree line. Behind me, the air temperature rose back to normal. Sounds returned slowly, the faint sigh of wind, a distant bird. I risked one glance back. The clearing was empty. No figure. No depression in the center. The ground looked flat and undisturbed, as if nothing had ever rested there. For a moment, I wondered if I'd hallucinated the whole thing. Then I felt the weight of my phone in my hand and the faint, ongoing vibration. I looked down. The screen was still black. The red vein path still glowed, faint but insistent, pointing uphill. I started walking. I wish I could tell you what I found up there. I wish I had some grand, satisfying horror reveal. An abandoned facility with government tags half scraped off, A ring of stones with something wrong in the middle. A hole in the world. I did find something, but I'm not going to describe it. Not because I'm noble or trying to protect you. I'm not that altruistic. If I thought I could dump this all on you and walk away clean, I might. I'm not going to describe it, because the more I try to put it into words, the less real everything else becomes. My apartment, the feel of my keyboard, the sound of cars outside. If I start translating what I saw into language, that thing in the clearing, whatever it works for, gets a foothold. Digital roads over them again, GPS routes, search histories, forum posts, and something woke up in the residuals. Something that knows how to work with paths. Something that can drift. This is what I will tell you. By the time I came back down the mountain, it was dark. I didn't remember the descent. Just that one moment, I was staring at something I won't describe, and the next, I was stumbling onto the gravel edge of the official trail, nearly getting run over by a group of late hikers with headlamps. One of them grabbed my arm. "Dude, you okay? You look wrecked." I nodded too fast. "Yeah, long day. Lost my way for a bit." He laughed. "You and everyone else. These apps suck out here." I looked down at my phone. The screen was back to normal. Battery at 14%. A row of missed notifications from Nate. "Seriously, what did you send me? My phone's acting weird. Hey, call me hello?" "I'm gonna drive up there if you don't answer by 6. I unlocked the phone." Trace was gone. Not grayed out. Not uninstalled with a leftover icon. Just absent. Like it had never been there. There was no listing in my app manager. No residual files. The screenshot I'd thought I'd taken earlier? Not in my photos. The only evidence was the text thread with Nate. And even that looked wrong. The message I'd typed, "Yeah, I'm fine," wasn't there. Instead, the last message sent from my phone said, "Come find me." I hadn't hit send. I know I hadn't. But there it was, time-stamped around the moment I'd been standing in that clearing, staring at the thing shaped like a tree. Beneath it, there was a gray line of system text. Attachment, failed to download. "Nah," I whispered. "No, no, no, no." The hiker who'd grabbed my arm was still watching me. "You sure you're good, man?" "Yeah," I lied. "Yeah, I'm fine." My voice sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. That night, back in my apartment, I did everything you're supposed to do. Factory reset the phone, flashed a fresh OS, changed every password, removed all weird DeepNet bookmarks from my laptop, wiped and rewrote my SD card with random data. I even considered smashing the phone and switching to a dumb brick. But it wouldn't matter, because the problem isn't the phone. The problem is the path. When I close my eyes now, I don't see the thing in the clearing. I don't see what I found higher up. I see lines, red lines threading through a dark grid. Some are thin, single trails. Some are thick, like highways. They intersect, merge, split. Smaller lines branch off and fade into static. My line glows brighter than the rest, pulsing slowly. Every so often, another line bends toward it. Not randomly, like it's being corrected. Drift. The first night home, I woke up with my heart pounding, hand reaching instinctively for a phone that wasn't by my bed anymore. I saw, in that half-dreaming blur, a map overlay on my ceiling. A red line from my apartment to another point across town. My brother's apartment. I called him at 3 in the morning. "Dude," he groaned. "What the hell?" "Did you open the thing I sent?" I asked. "The file that wouldn't download?" "Yeah, of course. I thought it was a rote or something, but it was corrupted. Why?" "Did anything else weird happen to your phone? Glitches? Did an app install? He was quiet for a moment. In the middle of my chem lab, my GPS just freaked the hell out, he said slowly. Like, it started vibrating and showing me this route, even though I didn't have anything open. I shut it off. When I turned it back on, it was gone. I figured it was some school tracking thing. You know, they're always... Nate, I cut in. Listen to me. Do not follow any route that doesn't have a name. If something tells you to continue or approach, don't. Just don't. Silence. Okay, he said finally. You're scaring me. Are you okay? I lied again. Yeah, just tired, forget it. I probably screwed with something I shouldn't have. We hung up. The next day, he sent me a photo. A screenshot of his battery usage stats. At the top, using 23% of yesterday's power. A process with no icon and no name. Just a blank space. When I tap it, his text said, it opens maps for like a second, then closes. Is that bad? I told him to bring the phone over. I'd wipe it. He hasn't had time. Classes, work, life. Meanwhile, my dreams keep drawing lines. I wasn't going to tell anyone. I thought if I kept my mouth shut, maybe it would stay small, manageable, local. Then I went back to that DeepNet index, on a different machine, using a different route. I wanted to see if Trace was still there. It was. Same listing, same description. But under the download button, there was new text.